The approaching Stormfleet commander Zathik stood before the massive viewing screen of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, watching thousands upon thousands of red lights stretch across the darkness of space. Each light represented of a warship armed with plasma cannons, capable of melting mountains and shields that could withstand the explosion of small stars. 9,900 vessels moved in perfect formation through the void. The largest invasion force ever assembled in the history of the Valkyrian Empire. The commander's silver skin gleamed under the bridge's amber lighting as his 3 eyes studied the tactical display. His species had conquered 47 worlds across 12 star systems, and never once had they required more than a few hundred ships to claim victory. But Earth was different. Intelligence reports suggested the humans possessed something the Valkyrians had never encountered before, an unpredictable creativity that made them dangerous despite their primitive technology. "Commander, we are receiving updated intelligence from our advanced scouts," announced Sub-Commander Vexis, her voice carrying the typical Valkyrian accent that sounded like grinding metal. "The human homeworld shows no signs of evacuation. Their population of 8 billion remains concentrated in major cities, suggesting they do not comprehend the magnitude of our approaching force." Zathik's mouth curved into what his species considered a smile, though it would have terrified most humans. "Excellent. Fear has paralyzed them, as it should. How long until we reach their star system?" 5 standard cycles, Commander. The humans appear to be mustering their defensive fleet, but our sensors indicate fewer than 4,000 vessels, most of which appear to be converted cargo ships and mining platforms. The bridge erupted in harsh Valkyrian laughter. 4,000 makeshift ships against nearly 10,000 purpose-built war machines seemed like a joke rather than a battle. Zathik had personally overseen the conquest of the crystalline beings, of Vortax Prime, who had possessed energy weapons far superior to anything humans had developed. If the mighty Vortaxians had fallen in 3 hours of combat, these primitive Earth dwellers would surrender within minutes. Meanwhile, in a reinforced bunker deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at sensor readings that made her stomach churn with dread. The approaching alien fleet was so large that their combined mass was actually affecting gravitational readings throughout the outer solar system. She had spent the last 6 months working with General Marcus Webb to develop humanity's response to this unprecedented threat, but seeing the enemy's true numbers made their preparations seem pathetically inadequate. "Sarah, you need to see this," called General Webb from across the command center. His weathered face bore the expression of a man who had fought in 3 wars but had never faced extinction of his entire species. "Our deep space monitoring stations have finished their count. We're looking at 9,900 confirmed enemy vessels, each one larger than our biggest battleship." Dr. Chen walked over to the general's workstation, her mind racing through calculations she had performed hundreds of times. "Marcus, even if every single shot from our fleet found its target, we don't have enough firepower to stop even 10% of their force. A direct confrontation would be suicide. That's why we're not going to fight them directly," Webb replied quietly, glancing around to ensure their conversation remained private. "Project Starfall is humanity's only hope now. Tell me honestly, Sarah, will it work?" Dr. Chen had been asking herself the same question for months. Project Starfall was the most audacious military strategy ever conceived by human minds. Born from desperation and inspired by humanity's greatest strength, the ability to find unconventional solutions to impossible problems. Instead of building more warships they couldn't afford or weapons they didn't have time to develop, They had chosen to weaponize something the galaxy had never seen used in warfare. "The physics are sound," she said carefully. "We've successfully converted over 300 asteroid mining platforms into kinetic launch systems. Each one can accelerate a 10 million ton space rock to 15% of light speed. The question isn't whether the system will work, it's whether we can get the aliens positioned correctly when we activate it." For the past year, human engineers had been secretly modifying automated mining equipment throughout the asteroid belt. What appeared to be routine resource extraction was actually the preparation of the largest trap in military history. Hundreds of space rocks, some as large as city blocks, now had powerful magnetic launch systems attached to them. When activated, simultaneously, they would create a storm of relativistic projectiles that could obliterate anything in their path. The challenge was timing. The asteroids were scattered across millions of cubic kilometers of space, and the alien fleet would need to be positioned perfectly for the trap to be effective. Too early, and the enemy would simply change course. Too late, and they would be too close to Earth for the plan to matter. "Our fleet commanders understand their role," asked Webb. "Captain Rodriguez and the others know exactly what they need to do," Sarah confirmed. "Their ships will perform a fighting retreat through the asteroid belt, drawing the aliens into the kill zone. Once the enemy fleet is surrounded by our modified asteroids, we trigger Project Starfall, and if it doesn't work..." Sarah met the general's eyes and saw her own fear reflected there. "Then Earth falls, and humanity becomes extinct or enslaved. There is no backup plan, Marcus. This is our only shot." Across the solar system, the Valkyrian fleet continued its relentless advance toward Earth. Commander Zathik had divided his massive armada into 3 main battle groups, each one larger than most species' entire military forces. The plan was simple and had worked perfectly on dozens of other worlds. Approach in overwhelming strength, demonstrate superior firepower, and accept the inevitable surrender. "Commander, we are now detecting increased human fleet movement," reported Tactical Officer Krex from his station. "Their ships appear to be taking defensive positions throughout their asteroid belt." Zathik studied the tactical display with professional interest. The humans were actually going to fight, which was admirable in a primitive sort of way. Their small fleet was arranging itself in a classic defensive formation among the space rocks, probably hoping to use the asteroids as cover while they took parchats at the advancing Valkyrians. "Maintain current course and speed," ordered Zathik. "We will sweep through their pathetic defense line like a wave destroying sandcastles. Their asteroid belt might provide momentary cover, but it will become their tomb." What the commander did not realize was that Captain Elena Rodriguez, commanding the human vessel Freedom's Call, was not preparing for a desperate last stand. She was carefully positioning her fleet to serve as bait in the most elaborate military deception ever attempted. Her orders were explicit: draw the alien fleet as deep into the asteroid belt as possible, then retreat in apparent panic while the real weapon prepared to activate. "All ships, this is Rodriguez," she broadcast on the secure human frequency. "Remember, we need to look defeated, but not helpless. Make them chase us, but don't let them catch us until we reach the designated coordinates. The survival of our species depends on selling this performance." The human ships began their retreat as the first Valkyrian scouts entered the outer edge of the asteroid belt. To the aliens, it appeared that fear had finally overcome the humans' stubborn courage. The small Earth fleet was scattering in apparent panic, fleeing deeper into the belt while maintaining only token resistance. Commander Zathik felt satisfaction as he watched the human retreat unfold exactly as his battle simulations had predicted. "Maintain pursuit formation," he commanded. "Do not allow any human vessel to escape. We will follow them into their asteroid maze and destroy them among their hiding places." The massive Valkyrian fleet plunged deeper into the asteroid belt, maintaining their tight formation out of doctrine and pride. They were so confident in their overwhelming superiority that they barely bothered to scan the space rocks around them. Their sensors were calibrated to detect enemy ships and weapons, not mining equipment that had been disguised to look like natural asteroids, deep in her underground command center. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with growing excitement and terror. The alien fleet was moving exactly where humanity needed them to go, completely unaware that they were swimming into the jaws of a trap that had taken a year to prepare. "General Webb, the enemy fleet is now at optimal position," she reported, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "All asteroid launch systems are armed and ready. We have full targeting solutions on the entire Valkyrian formation." General Webb looked at the display one final time, seeing 9,900 enemy vessels arranged in perfect formation within the kill zone. In a few moments, he would either save humanity or witness its final defeat. "Dr. Chen, execute Project Starfall. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth." Across the asteroid belt, hundreds of disguised launch systems received their activation codes simultaneously. What the Valkyrians had dismissed as harmless space rocks suddenly revealed their true nature as weapons of unprecedented destruction began to charge their systems. Asterisk. The battle and aftermath. The asteroid belt had been quiet for millions of years, home only to floating rocks and the occasional human mining vessel. But in the span of 3 seconds, it transformed into the most dangerous region of space in the galaxy. Hundreds of hidden magnetic launch systems activated simultaneously, their powerful fields beginning to accelerate 10-million-ton asteroids toward the trapped Valkyrian fleet. Commander Zathik was reviewing casualty projections for the upcoming bombardment of Earth when his tactical officer's scream of alarm made his blood freeze. "Commander, the asteroids, they're moving toward us. This is impossible." On the main screen, what had appeared to be a harmless asteroid field was suddenly alive with motion. Massive space rocks were accelerating directly toward the Valkyrian fleet with velocities that defied every law of physics the aliens understood. Each asteroid glowed with the energy of its acceleration, creating streams of light that converged on the alien formation from every direction. "Evasive maneuvers," shouted Zathik, but he knew it was already too late. His fleet was packed tightly, together in the center of the asteroid belt, surrounded by hundreds of incoming projectiles that were already moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Even if his ships could turn instantly, they couldn't accelerate fast enough to escape the trap. The first asteroid struck the Valkyrian battleship Conquest of Stars at 15% of light speed. The impact released more energy than 100 nuclear weapons, instantly vaporizing the massive warship and creating a brief star in the darkness of space. The shockwave from the explosion tore through nearby vessels, destroying their shields and crushing their hulls like empty cans. Across the asteroid belt, similar impacts began occurring every few seconds as more accelerated space rocks found their targets. The carefully organized Valkyrian battle formation disintegrated into chaos as ships desperately tried to escape the storm of relativistic projectiles that surrounded them on all sides. "All ships, emergency scatter," commanded Zathik as another asteroid obliterated 3 vessels in his second battle group. "Abandon formation and retreat at maximum speed." But the trap had been designed by human minds that understood both physics and psychology. The asteroids were not randomly distributed. They formed overlapping fields of fire that made escape nearly impossible. Ships that tried to flee in one direction found themselves flying directly into the path of more incoming projectiles. The humans had calculated the most likely escape routes and positioned their weapons accordingly. Subcommander Vexis watched her tactical display in horror as red icons, representing Valkyrian ships, disappeared by the dozens. "Commander, we're losing entire battle groups. Over 6,000 vessels have been destroyed in the last 5 minutes. How is this possible?" Zathik stared at the carnage unfolding around his fleet and felt something he had never experienced in 40 years of military service: complete tactical defeat. The humans had not beaten the Valkyrian Empire with superior weapons or greater numbers. They had won by thinking in ways that no other species had ever considered, turning the asteroid belt itself into a weapon. "Signal General, retreat," he ordered, his voice barely audible over the sounds of his own ship's alarms. "All surviving vessels abandon the asteroid belt immediately. Emergency jump to hyperspace as soon as you clear the gravity well." Captain Alina Rodriguez watched the destruction from her position at the edge of the belt, feeling a mixture of awe and horror at the effectiveness of Project Starfall. The alien fleet that had seemed invincible just minutes before was being systematically annihilated by humanity's asteroid weapons. Massive explosions lit up the darkness of space as ship after ship fell victim to the relativistic bombardment. "Captain, we're receiving retreat signals from the surviving alien vessels," reported her communications officer. "They're scattering in all directions, trying to escape the asteroid field." Rodriguez activated her fleet-wide communication system. "All human vessels, maintain your positions and do not pursue. Let them run. We've accomplished our mission." In her underground command center, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with amazement as the number of enemy contacts dropped from nearly 10,000 to fewer than 50, then to fewer than 20. The aliens who had come to conquer Earth were fleeing in terror, their mighty armada reduced to a handful of damaged survivors. "General Webb, it worked," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Project Starfall actually worked. We've destroyed over 99% of their invasion force." General Webb nodded grimly as he studied the aftermath of the battle. "Get me a final count on enemy survivors and damage assessment on our own forces." The numbers that came back were almost too good to believe. Of the 9,900 Valkyrian warships that had entered the asteroid belt, only 18 had escaped. The human fleet had suffered minimal casualties, losing fewer than a dozen vessels to long-range alien weapons fire during the initial engagement. Commander Zathik's flagship was among the 18 survivors, its hull scarred by debris from destroyed asteroids and its crew in a state of shock. As they limped away from the devastated asteroid belt, the Valkyrian commander tried to process what had just happened to his invincible armada. "Subcommander Vexis, prepare a full battle report for Imperial Command," he said quietly. "Tell them that Earth is not a primitive world that can be easily conquered. Tell them that the humans possess weapons and strategies unlike anything we have encountered before." "What should we recommend regarding future operations against Earth?" asked Vexis. Zathik looked back at the asteroid belt, where the scattered debris of thousands of Valkyrian ships reflected the light of Sol. "Recommend that Earth be classified as a level 1 threat, and that no further military action be taken without a complete re-evaluation of human capabilities." News of the battle of the asteroid belt spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Within weeks, Every major species had heard the story of how humanity had destroyed the largest invasion fleet in recorded history using nothing but modified mining equipment and creative thinking. The Valkyrian Empire, previously considered invincible, became a laughingstock among their enemies and lost 3 more star systems to rebellion within a month. On Earth, humanity celebrated its unlikely victory while scientists and military leaders analyzed every aspect of Project Starfall. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself promoted to head of planetary defense, tasked with developing even more innovative ways to protect Earth from future threats. The galaxy will never underestimate humanity again, General Webb told her during the victory celebration. Word is already spreading that Earth is defended by warriors who can turn anything into a weapon. That's exactly what I'm counting on, Sarah replied, looking up at the stars. The next species that considers invading us will remember what happened to the Valkyrians. Sometimes the best defense is a reputation for being too dangerous to attack. The surviving Valkyrian ships eventually reached their home territory, where Commander Zathik faced a military tribunal for the loss of nearly 10,000 vessels. But his testimony about human ingenuity and unconventional warfare tactics led to a complete revision of imperial military doctrine. Never again would the Valkyrians assume that technological superiority guaranteed victory. Years later, when other species asked how such a small world had defeated the mighty Valkyrian Empire, the answer was always the same. Humans don't fight like anyone else in the galaxy. They don't follow conventional military wisdom or limit themselves to traditional weapons. When threatened, they display a creativity and determination that can overcome seemingly impossible odds. The asteroid belt became a monument to human ingenuity, its modified mining platforms left in place as a reminder to any future invaders. Earth had proven that when humanity's survival was at stake, they could turn the very fabric of space into a weapon. The invasion that began with 9,900 warships ended with only 18 survivors, and a lesson that echoed across the galaxy. Never underestimate the power of human creativity in the face of extinction. Asterisk.